So I usually don't put these slides in, but since I was such a surprise on you guys, I figured I should probably just go a little bit over my background. But I have been in this industry over 17 years now, actually getting close to 18. I got to keep updating. But primarily, I work as an SEO consultant. I started as a developer, so I'm very technical. If you truly ask me what I do, I'm a technical SEO. I love doing site audits, especially in-depth and technical, troubleshooting penalties, that type of thing. I do a lot of corporate strategy and training and consulting as well. So I actually love to teach. It's my favorite thing to do. I own a small, very boutique digital agency called Highly Searched. And we kind of work with all different types of clients. So I'm very digital ADD. So I've never really specifically niched out. So I've really had a great chance to get a diverse background with lots of different niches. I am the president of Search HOU. If you are in Houston, we are a really great monthly meetup for digital education. It's been my priority this year as I took over as president to bring in some really great talent from out of the state even, and then we also pull locally. So it's really affordable to come each month. It's like $80 a year for meetups. So if you're in Houston, definitely check it out. And then, as he mentioned, I also work, my official title is SEMrush or SEMrush Brand Ambassador. I actually started as their community manager. I got the opportunity to help launch their Facebook group and community, which was so much fun. Now I do a little bit of corporate speaking. I run and host webinars and also help them with editing on their blog and proofing SEO articles and things like that. So I love the company. Actually, I've been a user of the tool for 10 years. And so that was a big part of the reason that I went to work with them, is that I am truly a fan of the tool and have used it for so long. It's definitely my go-to. And I'll actually get to go over some of utilization of the tool in my presentation, not because they're sending me or paying me to do it, but because I absolutely love the tool. I'm not actually here on behalf of SEMrush today. But I just want to tell you, like, that much, I truly, let me go, love the tool. So it's summer, and I had to change up my slides a little bit. I'm like, man, I have the beach on the brain, so I got a little, like, summer vibes going on here. But I wanted to talk about understanding SERP features, how to use them to your advantage. So you might not even know what SERP features are. I'm sure you probably do. But basically, it's anything that shows up on a results page that is not the traditional organic results or paid advertising. And basically, we are going to see all kinds of different stuff. Maybe you're searching for a movie and you see all the boxes pop up. You're searching about a company. So I'll go over some of those different ones, but they have really, Google has gone after trying to solve a user's query on the pages, which frustrates a lot of site owners because a lot of times they're pulling the data and the information and the facts off of your own site, and the users aren't even clicking through and visiting your website because it's being answered in their search. And so a lot of us have said, you know, in SEO, they want to go back. We want number one. And they get there and they realize they're not getting the traffic that we used to 5-10 years ago for that same position. And so it's because of SERP features. And so I want to talk about position zero. It's because basically besides the ads that pop up, when it does show the features up there, it really is like what we call position zero. And so I'm going to kind of go over a little bit of examples. So here is like a brand, and this is actually considered a knowledge panel SERP feature, and they are very similar actually to what is also called a knowledge graph. So they're used kind of interchangeably, but actually the knowledge panel usually relates to a brand, where the knowledge graph is more maybe about a person or a place. Usually pulls from Wikipedia, where the knowledge panel actually can pull from your own company website. And then obviously, this is probably one of the most popular ones that you see is the local pack. Truly, truly important if you're a local business. We have a answer box or instant answer. Now these you can't really, like a lot of times there's not even a link to the website that they pulled this data from. Not really going to worry about these too much because we can't really optimize for them. Then we have top stories. These are super important. SERP, we see these a lot. This is actually, we're in the land of oil and gas, so I tweaked my slides today a little bit to showcase some oil and gas stuff as well. But these are considered top stories or Google News. And I have a favorite SERP feature. We talked about this a little bit earlier. Just like my favorite thing is to go to the beach, besides that. But I want to teach you about how to find and steal your competitors' featured snippets. And I consider these SEO quick wins, and I will tell you why, because some of the techniques that I describe here, I've literally had people come back after like the next day and say, I got that featured snippet right away, like within an hour or two. It happens that fast. Implementing certain specific things on your website, oh my gosh, it's totally an SEO quick win, and I'm all about that. So just to go over featured snippets in general, here is an example. So usually featured snippets, and I'll kind of go over a little bit more about what triggers them, but a lot of times they're questions. And you will usually see this lovely box, and feature snippets actually come in lots of different forms, but hopefully usually it has an image and a paragraph. And then I talked about my favorite. My second favorite thing is actually video snippets as well, and they just happen to appear directly below this feature snippet for this query. We've been doing, I think in the presentation earlier, they were talking about optimizing for YouTube. And we actually do a lot of video lately. We've been optimizing for YouTube to rank well on YouTube, but also to rank well in the SERPs. Because Google obviously loves to favor videos from YouTube and drive traffic to YouTube as well. So not only are we capitalizing traffic on YouTube, but as well on an actual query on the Google's SERP result pages. So why care about feature snippets? So Google has flat out told us they're not going anywhere. I think they'll even get more and more detailed. We've seen some really, really great examples of how detailed they're getting. For me, they are huge trust signals for your brand. And this, I couldn't even tell you. For me, I'm all about setting my clients up to become the authority. Anytime Google awards them a featured snippet on a topic, I consider that a trust signal, and I will see their overall rankings lift off of similar queries for related topics. So we talked about this earlier. So voice search pulls in the questions and the answers from featured snippets. So if you are using a voice device and you're asking a question, a lot of times the answer is going to come from that featured snippet. A lot of times if it's a question like where's a place to order pizza from, it might pull from the local pack. But questions are going to pull from the featured snippet, and there's only one. So win it. And this was also brought up. 50% of all searches will be voice searches by 2020, which is insane. So we cannot ignore that. Optimizing for it now, you got to get on it if you haven't started already. Some other things that I feel that are super important. So featured snippets, it's all that aside, they drive a lot of traffic, an insane amount of traffic for the right queries. And a lot of times, if you use a tool like SEMrush, you can go in and you can find volume, search volume for that query. You'd be surprised how many different variations of questions like the same content will actually show up for. So it is insane. Don't underestimate the power of the traffic you can drive. But it's huge for building brand awareness in your field. If you are trying to make a name for yourself within a very crowded space, snagging these feature snippets are so powerful. You want people, when they're doing research, to constantly be seeing your brand. Because guess what? It's showcasing that you're an expert. You have authority and expertise on the topic. And lastly, guess what? These feature snippets actually convert. And a lot of times conversion means a lot of different things for a lot of different businesses. We've actually gotten leads purchases and things like that off of featured snippets. So a lot of times they think of these questions and these searches to be very, oh, this is bottom funnel, which sometimes it might be, but you'd be surprised how many times you get conversion. And I do it as well for local clients for queries like how to troubleshoot water heater problems that literally rank for feature snippets all across the country, and it converts locally, which is insane. So mostly featured snippets, we talked about, they pop up for questions, prepositions, and comparisons. Queries dominate featured snippet results. So those 52% of questions will trigger a featured snippet. Based off of some studies, we are at 52%, and I think it'll only increase. So basically what we've done is a partner actually had gone and done this intense study of some of the featured snippet queries, actually a lot of them, and they found that in order to snag that featured snippet, your website, that content for that query, needs to rank in the top 10. Actually, really, it needs to rank in the top 5 organically. So usually if they have the featured snippet, you are going to find that same website's content page usually ranking in the top 3 spots, definitely top 5. Once you get past that, it has a very, very slim chance of actually winning that featured snippet. So what's great is when you get it, you are actually on that page twice. You have the big featured snippet box, and then usually in the first few spots organically is the same content page as well. So using that to find your easy wins, you want to look for featured snippets and queries that trigger snippets actually that you are already ranking for keywords in the top 5. So these are my quick wins. And here's the thing is a lot of us have content teams, and we have clients that come to us, that come to us and they're like, well, we're creating a couple blog posts every week. And I'm like, well, that's great. That's really great. Like, what is your reasoning behind the topics? Like, how do you know what to write about? And they're like, well, we just randomly think we need to write it. Like, they have no rhyme or reason for why they're creating it. They're just like, we need to churn out content. And guess what? That's great. They're getting content out there, but let's get more organized. Let's have a data-backed plan behind what we're creating. And so this is one of my favorite strategies to give to content team. Like, this is where we want to go after. So actually, we're going to go first and optimize stuff that we're already ranking for. So re-optimizing content we already have. And so if you actually are a user of the tool, if not, this is SEMrush. This is actually your default, the organic research tool that most everyone is familiar with. And when I start this technique, I actually start here. And I kind of just pulled an example. Funny enough, this website was down for some reason yesterday. I have no idea why, but I could not actually get the website to pop up. But basically, I'm going to go in, I'm going to put in my company's domain into the organic research tool. And I'm going to actually use some filters here. I'm going to filter down and only pull up queries and keywords that rank in the top 5 positions. And then actually, I'm going to further refine it and say I only want queries that have a volume of 200 or higher. You can tweak this however you want. For me, it was mostly we're going to export it into a project, and you only get so many keywords. So anything that has less than 200, I filtered. Then you're going to export that list. SEMrush has a really nice option to just export into a CSV file. You're going to create a project. Most people are not aware that they can utilize projects within SEMrush. If you don't have one set up for your company, you're missing out on a lot of tools. There's lots of really great little tools in there that are not available unless you have a project set up. So we create a new project. I create one specifically for this keyword list, actually. So I named it the Rig Zone Featured Snippets. Totally example. I don't know anyone at this company. So we go in and I actually import those keywords. And then it's really, really great is inside the projects, we have this tab that's all about featured snippets. And it's going to tell me that out of those keywords, which I narrowed it down, it was like 40, that they have 2 of those queries, actually, they own the featured snippet, but we have 38 opportunities. So there's 38 other keywords in that list that had featured snippets that trigger for that query that we are not ranking for. But we rank in the top 5 organically, so we have content already written. So we're going to go in and look, and here's the list that it gives you of those queries, and it has some, obviously the keyword. Search volume is usually there as well. And it'll tell you your position, what position you currently rank, and the position that the person who owns the snippet has, and then the actual website that has the snippet. And so once you've identified that list, then we go back and we figure out, okay, how do we optimize our content so we can steal the featured snippet? And first of all, a lot of times the reason that I see my clients are not getting the featured snippets is because their content isn't marked up properly. So make sure your content is marked up. And so by that, and this is actually going over some of the different types of featured snippets, but this is obviously a bulleted list, an ordered list, and a table. And then there's also paragraph form, which we already showed. So we talk about which format should you use. So questions usually are paragraph form. If it's a how-to or an instructional type of content, it's usually an ordered list. And that's where I see a lot of issues is a lot of times they'll be formatted as bullets if they're formatted at all. If it's a comparison article, usually it's paragraph form. If it's pricing, if it's listing out comparisons or different pricings, usually either list form or table works really well. So the most important clue, actually, to know how you need to format your content is to analyze the content of the site that currently owns the snippet. If Google gave them the snippet, that's most likely what they're looking for. So if you have paragraph form and you see the snippet is bullets, then you need to go back and re-optimize the content. So actually, this is a really good example. So this is a moving query. So reasons to move to Houston, Texas, if you are a storage company or a moving company. I was going through, and this is a featured snippet. It's actually owned by 3 Men Movers, big, awesome company here in Houston. And I believe they are 3rd organic on this one. Are you from? Awesome. Yay. They're a really great company. So I was actually, you guys own the snippet here. So this is going to be an awesome tip for you. So exciting. Okay. Well, actually, it's actually a tip for life storage because they're doing something wrong here. So this is life storage. They actually have the first spot organically for this query where the company that owns the feature snippet is 3rd. So we kind of go through, and I'm actually looking. This is the Life Storage blog, their article, and I'm going to show you a scan of the page. So you notice the lovely detailed information on this page. Lots of graphics, just broken out, really great content, very detailed. Fantastic. It's no wonder they're first organic. So then we look at 3 Men Movers. Again, they have the feature snippet, so they want it. So if you compare their page, if you notice, that's all there is. It's a lot shorter compared to the other one. It's a lot more detailed. So obviously that's why they're 3rd organically. So why is it that they have the featured snippet over lifetime storage? It's all about the markup. You guys are doing it right. So the lifetime storage actually had their different sections marked up with header tags and paragraph tags, which was wrong in this instance because it's a list. The correct way would actually be to mark it up. If you're talking about 10 reasons why, they should actually be an ordered list, and not marked up as a bulleted list, but an order list, so that 1, 2, 3, 4. If Life Storage went and modified their content and actually set it up that way, they'd take your featured snippet for sure, because they have more content. They actually ranked better, but because of that mistake, you guys have it. So go soup up your content just in case the word gets to them. So the next thing, as far as stealing the feature snippets, is proper use of header tags. Very, very simple. Break up your content. As we were talking earlier, long form content is getting very popular. Most people are consuming it on their phones. It's really long. Break up your content. Use proper header tags. And simplify your titles and headers. Don't get overly descriptive. Like a good example is, if a title is like the yummiest pizza you've ever had, well, guess what? The searcher doesn't search that way, so I don't need that super descriptive, I'm not very good at examples on the fly. But anyways, you don't want to be super descriptive. You want to try to match the query as much as possible. Just simplify it. Integrate visuals. So I see this a lot, actually. I will see featured snippets where your site owns it, but it's not your image that's up there. It's to someone else's, because guess what? You either didn't have visuals on that page, or Google didn't think they matched the query in what the featured snippet was about enough. So they've given it to someone else. So if you notice that, go in and optimize. And don't forget the alt tags, super, super important. Try to match the alt tags. Obviously, we want it to be descriptive of the image, but also to the query. And then this is really powerful, link your citations. If this is informational, link out to sources. If you're talking about something that's medical, be linking to the university's medical documents where you pulled that data. Don't hoard your link juice, like people like to call it. Cite, link out. And then clearly this should be very obvious. Write better content. Pretty simple. If you've done all those other things and you still haven't won over the featured snippet, you probably need to go back and beef up that content, make it a little bit better. Outdo the person, the company's website, the page that earns the featured snippet. You need to do better. And so when I'm talking about content creation with regards, really, really good little product query hack. People search for products by the year. And this is very, very common. I love doing these with clients that have products or informational type stuff that changes. When I'm looking for the latest software, I'm going to put in the year. I'm going to, so create a new post every year. So if I'm looking at, I'm researching treadmills, I might be like, what's the best treadmill for 2019? So that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. So create these posts and update them every year. And start publishing those posts by fall. If you're talking about 2020, start publishing them in the fall so Google has a chance to index them. So when the year flips over, we're good to go. Okay, so after you've optimized your content. This is my little hack to steal the feature snippet really fast. So Google recently changed this on us. It used to be the fetch and render tool. If any of you go in Google Search Console, they're forcing us this new one, which not everybody wants. We miss our old one. But anyway, so the fetch and render tool was so fun. Anytime I changed content on a page, I would go and Google fetch it and watch my rankings go up. But now they've replaced it with what they call the URL inspector tool. So basically, any page you're on in Google Search Console, it's that top bar up there. It says inspect. So you would put in your page URL. You have to be logged into that account, obviously, for that website. Then it actually takes you to this screen. There's a few different things you can do. You can do the view tested page, but ultimately you want to click request indexing. It's already indexed, but basically we've refreshed the content. We want you to recrawl. So I'm not kidding. I've literally seen those snippets be stolen in a matter of minutes, like crazy. With that said, sorry. Let me go back. With that said, if it doesn't change right away, don't panic. Give it some time, but it also gives you an opportunity after a week or two. If you haven't gotten the feature snippet, go back. Keep working on it. Beef it up, make it better. Keep working on it until you steal it. So another content idea is you can, so we talked about finding the positions that we rank for, the keywords that we rank for already. But next step is then to identify the queries that your competition rank for featured snippets. So you can actually use that organic research tool. There's filters in there to see, like if you put up your competitor's website, go in and see what featured snippets, what queries they rank for, and write content. So write new content to target those queries if you don't have them already. Go steal them. Steal them away. Another really great tool for coming up with content ideas is to use the keyword magic tool. If I'm working with local clients, I love to just go in and I'll literally put in the city that they're in and scroll through. You can filter here for SERP features. And so there's one for feature snippets. And so you can see all the local queries or whatever keyword you're searching for and be able to see what queries triggers a featured snippet or a video snippet or top stories or the knowledge panel or carousels. There's so many different features. But I love to do that. This is really great when I'm trying to come up with content ideas to give my team to be creating stuff that will actually derive value. Going through here. Again, it's all about proper markup. We talked about schema markup a little bit, or not really, but basically we're going to go through some of these features, and the SERP features will actually require that you have schema placed on your website in order to get in there. Obviously, the news, having schema is not the only thing you need to do in order to get featured in Google News, but it definitely gives you a huge leg up if you have the schema on there. You're more likely to rank for these queries. I was looking in oil and gas, and only a few of them actually have the news article schema on their website. Schema.org is a powerful resource. Doesn't matter what type of business you are, there's schema for it. And not just that, for all the different things on your website. If you have a frequently asked questions page, if you have a how-to page, they all have schema now that is specifically for marking those up. You're specifically telling Google these are frequently asked questions, and as they start to add stuff, the queries and the SERP features to our results page, they're going to pull from sites that have marked up with the schema. I highly recommend JSONLD. Basically, it looks like that on the right there. But it just goes into your header. Instead of having to actually have someone go into the HTML and mark up all your actual content, which then has to be styled, like that's a headache. Don't worry about that. Use JSONLD. It just goes into the header. Simplifies that as well. You should all have local business on there at least, or your corporation schema. But with that said, I want you to go forth and win all the SERP features and the snippets too. So that you can go on a nice, sweet vacation this summer, like I'm hoping to do when I sit back and enjoy. So that is me. And we have there. I will also make my slides available if anyone wants them, because there's lots of really great notes, because I know it's very instructional. So yeah, just let me know. I can get you a bit.ly link or anything. But is there any questions?
One of the things we have to explain to our clients is that just because something ranks number one for you doesn't mean it ranks number one for somebody else's search. And it's there's all these other variables that factor into that. I don't know the answer to this. So is the position 0, the snippet, the same for everybody?
Okay, so right now, yes, it is. Unless it's like local pack, that
Right.
type of thing. But for featured snippets, I've had clients, friends test queries that we rank for all across the country, and they all return, which is what triggered that was me getting conversions for a home service company, on a water heater query. And I'm like, what? That is just crazy. But I suspect that it will become more localized. Like Google is all about user intent. If these queries potentially are something where someone's troubleshooting an issue that they might need to hire someone for, I feel like it will become more localized. I just haven't seen it yet. So it doesn't mean, like right now, get ahead of the curve, essentially, for sure. Anyone else?
Is there a difference between being self-hosted and not being self-hosted on the ranking?
Can you say that a little bit louder?
Oh yeah, is there a difference of being self-hosted and not being self-hosted on the ranking, or having a...
For the server?
Yeah.
Oh gosh. I mean, technically, no, well, that's a loaded question, actually. From a technical standpoint, you should have full control over anything that affects your website. I would never be self-hosted if it's a business, even if it was my blog. Like, I work with some food bloggers, and I'm like, don't you dare. Like, you should host your own website. Why? Because site speed is a ranking factor. And if you are not in control of your server, guess what? You're going to be slow, especially if you're on a mass host. I actually run all my clients on dedicated virtual private servers because it's fully under my control. I am a site speed fanatic. Actually, I do a lot of auditing on site speed. And so if you are self-hosted, you can control that. If you don't run your hosting, you can't. So definitely, and you just never know what could happen. Like, I'd never build my business on someone else's land, essentially. That makes sense? Anyone?
Hi. I don't know if this is going to be an easy question for you, but I know you're a developer, so you're very technical, and you mentioned proper markup, proper headlines, H1, H2, H3.
Mm-hmm.
In my case, I'm the one who published all of our blog posts to the website using a CMS, right? So I had no idea about the HTML part of listing and stuff like that. So for us dummies, is there anything that you recommend, like a book or any type of resource where at least myself, in my case, could learn a bit more about it? Or maybe a podcast or a blog, something?
Sure. Oh my gosh, there's a lot of places to get a lot of good information, but there's also a lot of places to get a lot of bad information. So you definitely have to be careful. Not to toot SEMrush's horn. We have a really, really great educational tools, lots of great blog posts, but several courses. There is one, I don't know what kind of company, if you're local, Greg Gifford has a really great, it's free course to sign up for that has a lot of basic stuff. So that's a really, really great resource. A lot of times you got to be careful who you listen to. There's just so much bad information out there. So when I try to give that information out to people, look for big conferences. Who's speaking? Like, who do they work for? Do they have a personal blog? Like, if they're speaking at big conferences, they probably have some good, legitimate experience and they're trusted in their niche. But that's not always the case. There's a lot of bad information out there too. So a big part, I always say, is you got to test. And don't just take someone's word for it, because there's also a lot of big names out there that write stuff, and man, they haven't touched anyone's site in a long time. They do nothing but speaking. And so it's constantly changing and evolving. So learning how to test and try things. Really, all I can say is learning is all about digging in and trying it and just testing to see what works for you. And you got to know how to analyze your data as well, because that's the other trouble part. Okay, we're running tests. Like, how do we correlate that with what worked and what didn't and stuff as well. So it's very, very in-depth. If you're in Houston, come to Search You. We have lots of really great educating speakers. They're different every month, actually, so as well. But anyone else? Questions? Yes. Right.
Hi. Okay, so I do have a question because you just mentioned hosting on your own server.
Yes.
I work for a local government agency, and during Harvey, we actually had to move our servers, or the people that were doing, they kind of host all the websites for the agencies here locally, and we had issues posting to our website during that transfer. Am I close enough? Here we go. Sorry. And so we recently just moved to GoDaddy for hosting.
Ooh.
So, yeah, I wanted to hear your take on that because it was a huge issue during that transfer because we couldn't access our website. We couldn't tell constituents don't go to these locations because of flooding. Our only access was social media.
So for me, I like using cloud services that use multiple data centers. So that way, if one goes down because there's issues, natural disaster in that area, there's other data centers with backup, so it immediately will kick in. And I try to there's lots of great services, but if you find some that runs off of like Amazon Web Service or Google Cloud, Google has a server. DigitalOcean is a really great one. They all have really great providers. You just have to find someone or a company that builds on top of those if you don't know how to manage it, because they're quite scary, to be able to run it. But definitely using that and using a content delivery network as well that backs up to all over the country. And it also makes your site faster, because depending on where users visit your website, it pulls, like if they're closer to a server that's being served that content, it'll load faster for them, which helps you with Google.
Great.
Awesome.
Thank you very much. Just to keep us on schedule.